Hi there guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time. Today I'd like to talk about some of the worst sounding albums in my collection. Hi there guys, welcome back, and welcome if this is your first time. If it is your first time, don't forget to hit like and subscribe below. It really does help make the channel grow. Can't see, I've got smuts all over my glasses. 1 minute. That's better, I can see you now. Right, in no particular order, I've got, I don't know, half a dozen or so here, and one bonus to go through. So the first in my list of worst sounding records in my collection is a Beatles record, actually. And you'll not be surprised to find out that it is a collection of Beatles oldies, a bit of the goldies. I have both mono and stereo versions here. The mono being marginally better than the stereo, and I'll tell you why. For stereo, they didn't have the master tapes for She Loves You, so they had to go back to a mono mix of it and create a faux stereo by removing high frequencies from one channel and the low frequencies from the other, so it sort of created an unbalanced sound. But yeah, generally speaking, 16 tracks shoehorned onto an LP is never a good thing. It's really pushing to the extremes of how much you can fit on a record. Consequently, these do suffer from inner groove distortion. And it's also just not a very good sounding record. Like I say, mono does fare a bit better than stereo, in my opinion. These very rarely, if ever, get put on my turntable. I've said before though, I think it'd be a good record store day release if they remastered it using the new demix technology. They could actually bring out a decent version of this now with that fantastic artwork. I do like the artwork of the record. It's just a shame that it was thrown together in 1966 for a Christmas as a stopgap between Revolver and Sergeant Pepper. Consequently, the fact it was thrown together actually shows in the way it was mastered. It's not that good. Alright, so yeah, the Beatles oldies but goldies. Next, oh yes, this is a good one. So when it came out, I really did like this album, and I streamed it. It's How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful by Florence and the Machine. I have played this record once, possibly twice, and it's never set foot on my turntable since, and I'll tell you why. This record is a double album, and it's a classic example of a record that was mixed and mastered specifically for streaming and CD release. This is brickwalled beyond it sounds awful. This should sound dynamic. It doesn't. It's flat, lifeless, and it's just like, leave well alone. I'm not even going to go there anymore. This is awful. I cannot express how shit this record sounds. It sounds great in my car when I'm playing FLAC files in my car through the system, and it also sounds good on my earbuds coming from when I'm playing it from my phone. But on a hi-fi, forget it. This seriously needs to be remixed properly by a proper sound engineer or mastering engineer. Oh, it needs everything. It needs everything doing to it, really. Right, I've got that out of my system. The next one is a Pink Floyd, first of two Pink Floyds. This has cropped up on my channel before, and that is the digital master sound of the final cut by Pink Floyd. Now, those that watch my channel will know that I really like this album. I think From a production perspective, it's flawless. From a mastering perspective, the Doug Sax original pressing is hands down the way to listen to this. But I bought this as a bit of a curio. I bought it off Discogs. It's in pretty good nick. It comes with all the bells and whistles and everything. It comes in a nice box with all of the inserts and the obi, and you know, it sounds really, really good. There's some errors on the sleeve. It still says it's mastered by Doug Sax at the Mastering Lab. It wasn't, because they had to master this digitally. Doug Sax mastered it to tape for release in 1983. This was sent to Japan and they mastered it digitally. So they must have took the 2-track master or a 2-track copy of the master, and they must have transferred it to digital in Japan. I cannot see Doug Sax doing that when he's already done it for tape for the UK release and potentially the US release as well. But this is clearly remastered for digital by the Japanese, and it sounds atrocious. The holophonics on this, as I've said in previous videos, they're missing, or if they are there, you don't notice them as much as you do on the UK pressing. Like I say, the excellent packaging, let down by really, really bad mastering. Not good at all. Again, a bit like Florence and the Machine, flat and lifeless. If you're on the market, if you're looking at collecting Pink Floyd, it's up to you, but I would give this a wide berth. You're not really gaining anything, and it's really expensive now. I mean, I think at the time I paid about 40 quid for this, possibly a bit more, but the last time I looked on Discogs, this is going for about 150. I don't know why, it's crap. Right, so we then get to a Pink Floyd related LP, and I recently did a shootout of this on my channel earlier in the year, and that is the remix, the Stephen Wilson remix of Richard Wright's Wet Dream. Now, I will say the packaging is fantastic on this. The colour of the vinyl is like beautiful. Yeah, but when we get down to the bones of the situation, this sounds not good at all when you compare it to the original. I suppose in isolation it's serviceable, and if you're not doing a comparison A-B against the original pressing, if you're not doing that, you put this on and go, oh, that sounds quite good. But having lived with the original for so many years and then putting this on, this was like night and day. This is night, and then you put the original on and the curtains open and the clouds part and you hear Richard in all his glory. This is like someone's put a duvet over his microphone. It's not good at all. I think Stephen Wilson has, when he remixed this, he brought Richard's voice back in the mix and the instrumentation more forward. Certainly the mastering on this is brickwalled in some places. It's not good. It's just it's a lazy remix, and it sounds not good. Yeah, Wet Dream. Whoa, let me just have a slurp of coffee. Right, this one featured in a recent shootout I did, actually. So when I first started getting back into record collecting, there was a few bucket list items that I needed to get, and one of them was The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. So I went out and bought the one that was available at the time. I think I got this via Amazon, possibly. I've now since found out this is the Nick Davis remix, and I was quite happy with this. Listening to this, I thought, great, great. This is like really took me back to when I used to listen to it in the 80s with my first system, and when I had my first lot of records before I got rid of them all. And I was really chuffed to have this, but then I started like sort of collecting OG pressings, and I went out and I bought an OG of the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway from Rewind Records in Sudbury. Link below to their Facebook page. And he sold me a copy of the Lamb. I think it was £15, an original pressing, a Porcupine cut from 1974. As soon as I put that on, I wanted to play frisbees with this. This is so wonky. It's off-putting. I never really realised it until I compared it to the original. I think it's the remix, the Nick Davis remix, I don't like. It's not bad sounding per se, but it's bad sounding, if that makes sense. These Nick Davis remixes, I think that you'll either love them or you hate them. I don't hate them, but I don't love them. I don't ever play this anymore, ever. I've even thought about giving this away. I don't want it, but I'll never play it. I play either the OG. I either play the OG of this, or my new Analog Productions 45 RPM version. But yeah, this never goes on my turntable. It is a wonky mastering, or mix rather, and it lets down a fantastic album. So in that respect, it sounds not good. So it's made it into this list. Right. Oh, another Pink Floyd album. Again, this has been on my channel, and I went through a phase of thinking, oh, you know what, I'm going to buy Japanese pressings of Pink Floyd albums because I like to collect Pink Floyd records. I have 3 Japanese Pink Floyd records. 2 are not good. 1 is fantastic. This is one of the not good ones. You've already seen one, and this is the second one. This is Animals. This is an original from 1977 with the green obi. This has got all the bells and whistles. It even comes with I think a sticker. Comes with a sticker and stuff. The packaging on this is fantastic. They use excellent card stock for the packaging and stuff. But I mean, I've never rated the original mix. Now we've got the 2018 remix. That's my go-to for Animals. So when I listen to the original mix, I find it woolly and muddy and quite, people say, oh, that's what it was meant to sound like. It's dark and moody. No, I think the reason it sounds so crap is because they were recording it in a studio they really hadn't got their head around. Britannia Road, they hadn't really got their head around it. Brian Humphrey was the recording engineer on that. And historically, we know that things were not going right for them at the time in the studio, things not working. They just had teething problems with the studio. Consequently, I think the reason it sounds bad, the original mix, is because of the limitations of Britannia Row. I just think, I just find it, everything they released up to then was recorded at Abbey Road, using Abbey Road engineers and stuff like that. All of a sudden they use their own studio and they bring out a record which musically is epic, sonically is poo. This makes it even sound worse because the Japanese pressing, it's, apart from being flat and lifeless, because it's using the original mix as well. I think they've tried to sort of enhance the high end. As you know, the Japanese, they like to boost the top end on their pressings. In that respect, I suppose it has improved it slightly, but it's lacking any bottom end. In that respect, it just doesn't sound good. There's no punch to this at all, because it was mastered for the Japanese market, and their mastering choices are very different to ours. And in that respect, this sounds bad. A little bit worse than the original, but yeah. So it's made it onto the list. And then we come to the last one. Oh yes, what have I got to say about this? Right. So let's see. I've got a few copies of this album. It's one of my favourite albums. Days of Future Past. I've got the Speaker's Corner. That's a 1972 repress with alternate cover. That's an original first pressing on the Deran label. First pressing. So I really like this album. I've got a fourth version, and the fourth version is the topic of conversation for this video, and that is this one. This is the 2017 50th anniversary pressing. Now, a little backstory for this. The master tapes from 1967 were discovered in the mid-70s, were discovered to be so fragile that they had to do a new mix from the multi-tracks. So what they done, they went back to the multi-tracks and they did a new mix in 1978, which is quite different from the original. And that mix found its way onto the Speaker's Corner 1978 remix. But the 50th anniversary, they wanted to go back to the original 67 mix, and as we know, the tapes were shot. The 2-track masters were shot, so they couldn't use them. So they had nothing to cut a master from. So some bright spark thought, let's go and cut a master from a backup tape. Now, I have heard stories that this was cut from a high quality, albeit high quality, cassette tape, or a high quality reel-to-reel that was made from a vinyl needle drop. Either way, it's from a needle drop. That we do know, right? So we've now got a record here that was mastered from a tape, whether it be reel-to-reel or cassette, mastered from a tape that was made in the 60s, or the 70s rather, of a needle drop of the original album. That opens up a whole new ball game, doesn't it? Because this was made before all this demix technology and all that malarkey. So, right, apart from the fact that a high percentage of these left the factory bowl warped, I mean, this is like a fruit bowl if I got it out. I've got a record clamp that I have to use when I'm playing this just to flatten the record out. Otherwise, it's like that. This is likely the worst sounding record in my whole collection, even worse than Florence and the Machine. The 50th anniversary, I think, was the worst thing they could have done for this fantastic album. They have crippled this album with this pressing. It is f***ing awful. There is literally no dynamics on this at all. Yes, it's the original mix, but guess what, you know? If you want the original mix, where is it? Buy an original pressing. They're reasonably priced. You can pick up an OG for about 25 quid, 30 quid in VG Plus condition, and it will be better than paying whatever it is for this 50th anniversary turd. Honestly, don't buy it. Don't buy it. Buy an OG if you want the original pressing, or if you want the original mix, buy an OG or any of the reissues you know, this is 72 repress of the original mix. This, I paid about 10 quid for this, and it sounds excellent. It sounds fantastic. You just do not need to pay all that money for that atrocious pressing. Just don't do it. And then we get on to my final choice, and this is a bonus one. I wasn't going to include this because it's not really that bad, certain tracks, but I thought I'd include it because there's a track on this that always suffers, and that's on the original UK double EP of Magical Mystery Tour. Now, this is actually one of the first records I bought when I started recollecting vinyl, and I got this through Discogs, from a seller on Discogs. Can't remember his name. Absolutely brilliant seller. If I remember what his Discogs name is, I'll put it in the description below. But he was a record shop owner, and he actually they sent me the wrong one first of all, because this should have been like VG Plus condition. When I got the one I got had rips and tears in the cover and stuff. They actually sent me the wrong one, so he let me keep that one and sent me the proper one. So I ended up with 2 copies for the price of one. Anyhow, as you know, this is a double EP, so there is, oh god. Right, so side 1 you've got 2 tracks, side 2 you've got 1 track, which is okay. Side record 2, side 1 you've got 2 tracks, Fall on the Hill and Flying. Side 2 you've got Blue Jay Way. What I will say from the outset is I'm the Walrus and Blue Jay Way sound okay, because there's only 1 track on there. Magical Mystery, right, your mother should know. Your mother should know. Every single copy of this record I've heard, Your Mother Should Know, suffers with really bad inner groove distortion near the end of the track, and I think that's because they've really shoehorned the 2 tracks onto one side on this record. It's always, to me, sounds distorted. It doesn't sound right at all. For that reason, the sides with 1 track on, like I'm the Walrus and Blue Jay Way, sound fantastic. You know, albeit this is the mono, by the way, the mono version of the release. To be fair, if you want the best version of this, get the US album version, the mono reissue. Excellent, that is. But this is a curio, the double EP. It was reissued a while ago when they reissued the video. They done a video pack, didn't they? And this, they sort of reproduced the double EP pack, which was nice, I suppose. But this is an original. It's showing its age with colour. But yeah, some of the tracks are good on this, but some suffer inner groove distortion. And Your Mother Should Know is the one that really does suffer. On this version, and the other one that he sent me in error, that also suffered in the same way. So yeah, Magical Mystery Tour as a little bit of a bonus. I just thought I'd throw that in at the end. So that's a bit of niggling out of the way. Normal service will resume next week, and so with that said, hit like and subscribe below, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, bye bye.